Okay, I'm Carol Hadley, and I've known Steve Foreman for very close to 50 years.
And I'm Terry Hadley, and I've known Steve since I married this lovely lady, which is 32 years.
Well, Steve and Sue were neighbors of mine many years ago. We were very young. I met them, and we got together and did a lot of things. And at that point in time, I was in my first marriage, and Steve and my first husband were drinking buddies. To Sue's and my, unrest, they were always every Friday afternoon playing liar's poker, and they would forget to come home till 10 or 11, and that was just, that was really how I met them. And then it went for that way for a long time, and Steve found AA and wanted to change his life, and he did change his life. And my husband was furious because his best friend just didn't want to do what they'd been doing for years. So I think Steve would tell you if he were here that my first husband was one of the few really bad failures he had, because he never really could convince him to believe in AA, which was a shame because it changed Steve's life and it changed Sue's life, and I ended up getting divorced. And then I married this wonderful man 10 years after I got divorced and introduced him to my friends Steve and Sue, and he and Steve just hit it off like that. Just became great friends.
We would kid Steve because he'd say, let's all go to dinner, and we'd go out, another couple, two couple, three couples. And we knew that Steve was picking the restaurant where he had a coupon.
Yeah. So we always teased him about that.
At the funeral, I said, I got to put a smile on people's face, because I guarantee you, except for St. Peter said, which table in God's table takes coupons?
Steve was a fun guy. I mean, we had lots of fun. They used to have fun parties. And yeah, they're just wonderful friends and wonderful, unselfish giving people who give from their heart continually. And I knew that when Steve passed away, Sue would not stop. I knew that she is going to carry this work on with her the rest of her life. It's who she is.
Got to know right away that Steve was a strong member of AA. And my first wife, like Carol's first husband, was an alcoholic, and who would never see anybody about doing anything about it. So I was acutely aware of the damage that alcoholism could do. It was the reason I got a divorce too, and had custody of my 3 sons. And so got to know Steve and appreciate what he was doing, and what a tough battle it had been for him. And we became great friends. We had a good time. We went to football games together and had them as a guest at our place up for weekends and stuff. And Steve was a great guy. And then after a while, I had the privilege of getting to also be his lawyer. So I represented him in a lot of business transactions and things like that, and came to admire his insight and his integrity. He was a joy to have as a client because it was just innate honesty and decency. Drove a hard bargain and was a good businessman, but he did it the right way, with decency and honesty.
Sue and I spent a lot of time commiserating about, what kind of lives we were going through, and that it was difficult. It was really hard for both of us. And I will have to say, Sue was so helpful to me because she said, Carol, you need to go to Al-Anon. You can get some of your questions answered. And so I did join an Al-Anon group, and I found it to be wonderfully helpful to me. And it was something that I had never even considered, but I was so glad that Sue told me about it, because it made a big difference in my life, and things got amazingly better for me. Even though I couldn't change the situation, I changed the way I looked at the situation. I believe Steve came to believe because he came to believe, and I think his caring personality, he wanted so badly for so many people to share the joy that he had and the success that he had.
And he felt that very strongly, and he was very good at conveying it.
Oh, and he lived it. He lived it every day. Yeah.
So I had a close member of my family who's an alcoholic, and Steve reached out on several occasions to help that member of the family. And
so helpful.
So helpful. And as you know, alcoholism is a recurrent disease. You think you got it beaten, and it comes back again. And one of the things that convinced me that this was really the right path for my family member was Steve got him into an organization, or at least told him about an organization called Fresh Start. And he got into that and stayed for a year with them, and has come out sober, got a great job, has really
Doing so
turned his
well.
life around, and like came to believe it's faith-based. And I became totally convinced that the best way to have a successful outcome is to have a faith-based organization that gives you something beside yourself to look for when you're fighting this disease and this terrible syndrome.
So helpful.
And
yeah.
Steve never gave up. I'm convinced that that particular member of my family is alive today and doing well because of Steve's intervention
Absolutely.
and persistence and not giving up, and conveying the fact that having this belief, having the faith-based solution, and trusting in God and knowing what it can be is what made the difference. At Steve's request, I made some contributions to Came to Believe, because I think it's a kind of organization that delivers a message that, in my opinion, is the one remarkably effective way to deal with this disease.
I can't think of any one thing that touches so many people in such a difficult way as alcoholism, because I think it's so pervasive and it touches so many people. And if you can see somebody heal from that and somebody go on to have a productive, wonderful life, why would you not financially support that, emotionally support that? It's a wonderful, wonderful organization, and it gives hope to so many people.
I'll make it even simpler. It works.
Right.
Came to Believe as an organization gives people an opportunity, delivers a message that gives them a path out. And it's a classic example. You can have a good sense of humor, you can have a lot of fun, and you don't have to have it dependent upon alcohol.
Absolutely
You
not.
can enjoy life and enjoy people,
Mm-hmm.
and develop a great reputation, and do it with a smile on your face, and you don't have to be drinking to do it. And so with faith-based and Came to Believe, you've got that path, so you can show life is good, life can be wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your path, and it doesn't have to have alcohol in it.